Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time here, then welcome to Millennial Alley. I'm Ali Dior, and today we are going to cover another crazy, horrific South African true crime case. So in my previous video, I did the murder of Talib Peterson. Well, I didn't do his murder. I covered the murder of Talib Peterson by his wife Najwa Dur, and that kind of got me down a rabbit hole about female South African killers. And so we're going to be doing another one today where a woman was the murderer. So welcome to True Crime and Crafts. Today I'm going to just make a keyring for one of my friends. It was my birthday like 2 weeks ago, and it was her birthday now this past week. So we actually had an agreement where we were going to make like a birthday wish list for ourselves for birthday gifts and then just order off there and send it to each other. But she still has not sent me her wish list. So I'm just going to make this in the meantime, and then while I'm waiting for her to send me her gift requests, hint hint. Anyway, so I've also been thinking about maybe doing a new segment called Trending Topics, where we can just talk about things that are relevant at the moment, you know, in the news and big cases and things like that that are going on. But I'm first just going to need to sort out a few things with that, and then we'll see how it goes. But for now, let's just get into today's case. So, Natasha Norton. At the time of this case, which happened in 2005, she was working as a fitness consultant at the Virgin Active gym, which is in Constantia. And she was living with her parents. Their names are Vernon and Anastasia Norton, and also her younger brother, 19-year-old Dylan Norton, in their home in Lansdowne. This is in the Western Cape. Natasha had been dating a man named Neil Wilson, but they'd only been together for about 2 months when they broke up, and then Natasha found out she was pregnant. So she gave birth to her baby girl on the 30th of November 2004 in Claremont, Cape Town. At first, Neil refused to accept that this was his baby, so they literally had to go through a paternity test, and that's apparently the only time that he saw baby Jordan. And the results of this came back positive that he was indeed the father. Like, he's just a douche canoe right off the bat there. But anyway, so basically Neil's problem at this point was that he was already in a relationship with another woman. Apparently he was quite a womanizer, because there was a stage when he was dating 3 women at once, and I think like 2 of them worked at that same Virgin Active where Natasha worked, and it was like a whole ordeal. But anyway, at this point I think he had broken up with all of these other women, and so now he was in a relationship only with one lady, and her name was Dina Rodrigues. And Dina said that this was the first physically and emotionally serious relationship that she had ever had, and that she was already planning their future together. So when she found out that he had a baby with his ex-girlfriend, this just sent her into a fit of rage and jealousy, because there was now this other life that would forever tie Neil to Natasha. But from the beginning, Neil told Natasha and also Dina that he had no interest in being part of this child's life. And this is where the whole maintenance and child support war between Natasha and Neil started. But eventually got so bad that Neil actually changed his contact details so that Natasha and none of her family could get hold of him at all. And they had to basically contact each other about this child support problem via their lawyers through family court. So obviously things were getting quite ugly between Neil and Natasha, which is very heartbreaking, because this was her first baby, Jordan-Leigh Norton, and that should be a happy time for a mom, and he was making things so, you know, horrific for her, going through this whole maintenance battle, not wanting anything to do with his daughter, having this girlfriend of his who's like throwing a tantrum basically because she found out that her boyfriend has a baby with his ex. So obviously the situation wasn't great, but Natasha and her parents and her brother loved baby Jordan-Leigh Norton, and she brought a lot of joy into their lives. So they were glad that she was there, even if the baby's father and his girlfriend didn't quite feel the same way. Okay, so while this whole maintenance battle thing was going on between Natasha and Neil, Dina apparently started spiraling mentally. So she was the youngest child of her parents, and I guess as the baby of the family, she was used to always getting everything that she wanted and getting her own way. And so obviously that was not happening in this case because she did not want the baby to exist, but obviously the baby existed. So it seems like she led quite a sheltered life growing up. Her parents didn't allow her to date when she was a teenager, and even now in her 20s, she would hide her relationships from her parents, which includes this one with Neil. So whenever they would hang out or go anywhere together, she would lie to her parents and tell them that she was hanging out with friends or going on holiday with friends, things like that. So her parents at this point didn't even know about the relationship that she was in with Neil. So at this point, Jordan was now 6 months old, and basically she would stay at home every day with the family's housekeeper, Tobekwa, and her uncle Dylan, while Natasha was at work at the Virgin Active. Dina was also starting to show her true colors at this point, I guess, because she was making really odd comments to Neil, saying things like, they needed to get rid of the problem, or how much would you pay to get rid of the problem being his baby daughter, obviously. And he never kind of said anything negative about these comments that she was making. He didn't reprimand her for it, so I guess she took his silence on the matter as him agreeing with her sentiments and her feelings on the situation. Okay, so public service announcement here. If someone in your life starts making a lot of comments about murdering a specific person and starts going into detail about how they want to murder that person, or says things like how much would you pay to have someone killed, please take it seriously. Report it to the authorities, report it to somebody, leave that person, do something, because hindsight is 2020, and after things happen, people are always like, oh, I didn't think that they were really going to do that, or I thought they were joking. And clearly, by a lot of the cases that we have seen, these people are not kidding. So anyway, one day in 2005, Dina decided she had an amazing idea, and she drove to a taxi rank in Killarney and got out of her car, and she literally just started walking around this taxi rank asking people if they knew of someone who would be willing to earn 10,000 Rand by breaking into a house, pretending it's a robbery, and then murdering the baby that was inside the house. I don't know. I literally do not know how. I wish I could have seen how that was. How do you just go around and ask random strangers this question? I was just like, I can't imagine doing that. But anyway, what do I know? I'm not out here trying to hire hitmen to murder anyone. So anyway, she eventually reached a taxi driver named Sipho Mfazwe, and he said that he was willing to do it and he knew some guys who could assist him. So her plan was put in motion. On the 6th of June 2005, there was a very strange phone call to the Norton family's residence, and Natasha and Dylan's mom, Anastasia Norton, was the one who answered the phone. And on the other end was a lady who said her name was Bobby and that she was looking for Natasha. And Anastasia said that Natasha was not there, she was at work at that time, but that she would give her the message when she got home. So when her daughter got home that night, Anastasia told her about this call from someone named Bobby, and Natasha said she did not know anyone by that name. But I guess she didn't really think much of it either. She was just like, that's really strange, but cool, whatever. And then, carried on with their lives. But then over the next 2 weeks, there were several strange phone calls to their home Most of them, the housekeeper Tobeka would answer, but every time Natasha would come to the phone, or if she was the one who answered the phone, then there would be silence on the other end and no one would be speaking. And yes, smart asses, I'm sure most of you have guessed it by now, it was Dina the crazy who was phoning the family the whole time. So Dina's family, the Rodriguezes, own a some kind of like novelty toy candy company thing, and basically she was the admin assistant for them, so she would send out the orders that customers placed for this stock. So she came up with this idea, I guess based on the fact that she dealt with deliveries at work, that she was going to get these 4 men that she had now hired to act as delivery men. She gave them 2 yellow pages or telephone directory book things. She told them to go to 15 Scout Road in Lansdowne and pretend to be delivering these books, and once they gained access to the property, then they had to stage a pretend robbery and ensure that they murdered the baby that they found inside. So the men that Dina had hired to do this job for her was obviously Sipho Mfazwe, who is the taxi driver that she had originally met with, and then the men that he had recruited for the job was Zanatemba Gwaba and Mongezi Bobotyane, and then there was 16-year-old Bonginkosi Sigenu. So he was actually technically not a man, so 3 men and a boy, and these are the 4 that she had hired to get this job done. So on the 14th of June, which was a Tuesday, Zanatemba walked up to the Norton residence and rang the doorbell, and when Tobeka came to the door, he told her that he was there to deliver their phone directories. So she went and called Dylan to confirm with him if she should accept them, and he said that it's not necessary because they've already received updated phone books recently. So she went back and told the man, no thank you, we don't need them. And well, I mean, obviously she didn't open the door, so they had no way to gain access to the property, so they had to leave it there. So that plan was luckily unsuccessful. Okay, this is not right. Okay, sorry, the letter that I had there was a Z and not an N, and I need an N, so I just had to do some changes there real quick, but I'm here. Anyway, as I was saying, so the plan failed. So then Zanatemba obviously told Sipho that it didn't work, and then Sipho let Dina know. So she obviously had to come up with a plan B, which she did on the very same day. So I guess maybe she had thought about if it didn't work what she was going to do. So she phoned the Norton residence again, and Dylan answered the phone. So Dina put on this like customer service kind of voice. You know that voice, I think most of us have it. The voice that we have in normal life and that professional voice that we use at work are 2 very different voices. Anyways, so she put on this customer service type of a voice, and she told Dylan that there would be a package sent out for delivery the following day for his dad, Mr. Vernon Norton. So he was like, oh, okay, cool, no problem, thank you. Anyway, so then Natasha phoned Sipho and asked the guys to meet her at Kilani Gardens. So when she got there, Sipho went over to Dina's car, where she gave him a box and a piece of paper. So the piece of paper that she had given him was a waybill, like ones that you use when courier services do a delivery, then obviously they use a waybill. She gave him one that she had filled in. It was from Speed Freight Couriers, and it had obviously Vernon's details on so that it looked legit. And she told him to use this to deliver and gain access to the property the way they were supposed to have done with the telephone directories. So the following day, which is now the 15th of June 2005, the 4 men drove back to Scout Road again and then walked up to the Norton house. The 3 older men stayed outside around the corner, because obviously the day before Zanatemba had been there trying to deliver phone directory, so it would be kind of obvious to Tobeka if the same man is there delivering something else today. So they sent the youngest of the group, Bonginkosi, to go ring the doorbell. So he did, and at that moment Tobeka was in the lounge busy feeding baby Jordan. So she went to the door and he explained to her that he had a delivery for Mr. Vernon Norton and that he needed her to sign the waybill. So as she had done the day before, she went to go call Dylan. Dylan was still sleeping at this stage, and he remembered the phone call from the day before, and he told her, yes, no, it's fine. He had arranged with a lady the day before from a courier services that they were going to bring a delivery for his dad, so she can accept it. So Tobeka went back to the front door and opened it and took the parcel from Bonginkosi. At that moment, Dylan got up and came through to sign the waybill, and so Tobeka went back to the lounge to continue feeding Jordan. And then at this point, the three men who had been hiding outside barged into the house. Mongezi pulled out a knife and pointed it at Dylan, and the men forced Dylan into his parents' bedroom and tied him up in their ensuite bathroom. Two of them then went into the lounge. One of the men grabbed baby Jordan, and the other one forced Tobeka to also go to the parents' ensuite bathroom, and they tied her up at the same place where they had tied Dylan up. So they were both now tied and locked up in Dylan's parents' ensuite bathroom of their bedroom. So then the men went to look for the family safe and what other valuables they could find on the property, well, in the house. And Sipho then instructed the youngest, Bonginkosi, to go into the next room, which was Dylan's room, and that he had to be the one who murders baby Jordan. So Bonginkosi, remember he's 16 years old, takes 6-month-old baby Jordan into the next room, and obviously being a little baby, she was very frightened and didn't know what was going on, I assume, so she started crying. And when she started crying, Bonginkosi suddenly was reminded of his own little brother and he could not kill her. So instead he started rocking her in his arms, trying to comfort her. And then Mongezi came into the room and he was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Why are you comforting her instead of murdering her? We're here to do a job. So he was just like, you know what, get out, whatever. So on his way out, Bonginkosi grabbed a cell phone that was on the bed. It was Dylan's cell phone, which basically he stole it. And then Mongezi took his knife out again and stabbed baby Jordan in her throat. He then left her body on her Uncle Dylan's bed where she was bleeding out, and the men fled the scene. So once everything in the house went quiet, Dylan and Tobeka decided they could now come out, like it was probably safe. So they managed to get themselves loose and get out of the bathroom and everything. And that's when they saw that the house was completely turned upside down, where the men had obviously been looking for valuable items that they could steal. So Dylan then went to his room to go and grab his cell phone so that he could obviously phone for help because they'd just been robbed. And Tobeka, I guess, went looking for baby Jordan. And this is the moment that Dylan went into his room, and obviously cell phone wasn't there because it had been stolen, but he saw his baby niece lying on his bed in a pool of her own blood with one of her eyes swollen, where I assume they had hit her in the face, and he was in absolute shock. He picked her up and ran with her body to Tobeka and told Tobeka to take her to one of their neighbors. So basically they had a doctor with a consulting room in the neighborhood, and he wanted her to take the baby there while he pushed the panic button so that the security company could come out. And the neighbors did everything that they could, but baby Jordan was already passed away at this point. Obviously, I guess her little body couldn't handle the amount of blood loss that she had endured from the deep wound. It was said that Mongezi had actually stabbed Jordan so badly that the knife had hit the back of her throat, basically like where the start of her spine was, because I mean obviously she's a tiny little baby with a little neck, and his knife was probably quite big, so that's just absolutely horrific. Anyway, one of the neighbors then gave Dylan some sugar water because he was in absolute shock, trying to just calm him down. Eventually, he was able to phone his dad, Vernon, who then had the horrible job of having to phone his daughter, Natasha, to tell her to please meet him at the neighborhood doctor's rooms urgently. So, when Natasha got there, she walked in and saw her baby girl's body lying lifeless and covered in blood where she was deceased. So I can't even, that's not a scene that any mother should ever have to walk into. Obviously, I don't have my own children. I don't ever want to have my own children. But I can't even imagine what you go through in that moment, having to see something like that. Like, you literally left your baby that morning, said goodbye, gave her kisses, whatever. It was a normal day. You were just at work. And then this is the scene that you come back to. Like, that is horrific. So, if Dina is not already a freaking psychopath at this point, what she does next is just like my brain can't even grasp what kind of person she must be. So Dina sent Natasha a message saying that she had heard about her baby's death, and she's very sorry for her and her family, and that she was praying for them. And I don't know, but I assume Natasha probably didn't answer Dina's message, mostly because she was obviously busy trying to deal with the trauma and the shock and everything of just finding out that her baby had passed away. But also, I'm assuming because it's her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend who clearly had a problem with their child. So I also wouldn't want to answer her if I was Natasha. So then Dina phoned Natasha to verbally give her condolences, and just hang on, look at this cute little thingy that I made, keyring thing. So yeah, she can just put on a keyring. So cute. Her favorite color is yellow, that's why it's like very yellow. Anyway, so then Dina phoned Natasha and she said, I just want to give you my condolences. And Natasha was like, can I please just have Neil's current number, because I don't have his, newest contact details or whatever, and I would really like to discuss our baby's death with him. And Dina refused, and she said, there's no need for you to phone him. He already knows that Jordan is dead. So, which is, I got a horrible woman, but anyway, I'm not even surprised. Okay, and I know that some of you might now be thinking to yourselves, like, didn't Natasha wonder how Dina knew about Jordan's murder if she herself had only just found out? But I guess in that situation, she was in such shock and disbelief that it hadn't really registered with her at that point that Dina actually shouldn't know about the murder. So after Dina messaged and phoned Natasha for her fake condolences, she then drove to Sipho Mfazwe's house, which was in an informal settlement in an area called Lusaka, which is in Crossroads, close to Cape Town. So all the men were waiting there for her, and she came there and brought them 5,000 rand, which was half of the agreed amount, and said that she would give them the other half later. So basically they each had earned about 1,200 rand for murdering a baby or being involved in the murder of a baby, which is ridiculous. But anyway, and the men had also, while they had been raiding the Norton's family home, they had emptied the safe of its entire contents, so they had stolen whatever was in there. They had also taken a gun and some high-end expensive stationery set, I guess, an expensive watch, and also baby Jordan's birth certificate and the baby bag with like her bottles and nappies and things like that in. I have no idea why they took those things. I'm wondering if, it didn't say in the report, but I'm wondering if Dina told them to take it, that's like next level crazy. What the hell do you want to do with Jordan's belongings? That's really creepy. But anyway, so those are the items that they had taken from the house. After Dina had paid the men for their services, she then went back to work at Dolce Loom, and she sent Neil a text asking him to, phone me urgently, please. So he phoned her back and she said to him, I've just paid to have our problem taken care of and it's like over now. And I guess he didn't really understand. So she clarified and was like, your daughter was murdered. I had her murdered. I don't know if she thought he was going to be like happy or impressed or proud of her or what reaction she thought he was going to give her. But obviously he was like in disbelief and shock because, well, even though she had been making comments about it and I don't know, I guess sending him funny messages about wanting his daughter out of the picture, he clearly didn't think that she was serious. So, you know, this did come as a surprise to him, or not a good surprise, like a horrific shock to him. She then told him that the police were here at her work and they wanted to question the both of them. So they were on the way together to the police station, but because traffic was apparently super hectic or something, they were very delayed and phoned and made arrangements with Captain Esmeralda Bailey to come and see her the next day. So that night, Dina stayed over at Neil and his parents' place, and she managed to convince Neil to delete a bunch of their messages that they had sent each other, which could be incriminating. None of the reports that I read said what the messages were about, but I would assume it's these comments that she had been making for weeks or months about wanting, you know, to take care of the problem and wanting baby Jordan out of the way and that kind of thing. So anyway, he deleted a bunch of these messages. And the next day they went to the police station. Dina was the first one who was interviewed, and then secondly it was Neil. And in his interview with Captain Bailey, he didn't mention anything about Dina confessing the day before to being the one who planned the murder of his daughter. He also didn't say anything about all the messages that he had deleted, which could have been incriminating. And when he was asked later on why he didn't at first say anything, he said it was because he was not in the right state of mind at that point. He was confused, he was in disbelief, and also he loved Dina and he just didn't know what to do in this situation, which I think is total crap. If I knew that the person that I loved had a baby murdered or anybody murdered who was innocent, I would be like, yo, this dude killed someone, peace, I'm out. Anyway, after Dina and Neil had been interviewed, then Neil's parents were interviewed by Captain Bailey, and while his parents were in the captain's office being interviewed or questioned or whatever, Dina and Neil were sitting outside waiting, and suddenly Dina just started screaming, what have I done? What have I done? I'm going to jail. So she was upset, but not because she had remorse because a baby, an innocent 6-month-old baby, had been murdered because of her. No, she was upset because she was about to be punished for it. And she was officially arrested the following day on the 17th of June 2005. So obviously after Dina had been arrested, the police were able to get all of the other men that were involved, all 4 of the men. Mongezi made a full confession. Sipho, on the other hand, claimed to have never seen Dina before in his life. And all the items that were stolen from the Norton's home was recovered and returned to the family after the investigation. So during the trial, Captain Esmeralda Bailey said that on the day of the murder, when they had come to the residence first, she had found the fake Weibull lying on the floor in the home, and Dylan had confirmed to her that the day before, a lady had phoned him and told him that there would be a delivery coming on the day of the murder. A parcel would be delivered for his dad, and so this was the Weibull that he had signed. And on the Weibull they had found Zanatemba's fingerprints as well as Sipho's and a thumbprint of Dina. The handwriting on the Weibull matched Dina's handwriting completely. Like, what a freaking idiot. But anyway. And then Captain Bailey also got the police's technical support unit to contact Halcom to have that call traced, the one that Dylan said he had received the day before about the delivery that was going to come. And what do you know? The call was traced back to Dina's family's business, Dolce Loom. So obviously that's when they had gone to Dina's work to question her and tell her that they needed to see her and Neil at the police station as soon as possible. And that's when she had phoned Neil and told him that the police were here at her work. So the reason why Dina had blank Weibulls, it did come up in court. So the Weibulls that she used, it was from a courier company, and every time she would courier something out, she would just fill in the waybill already and have everything set and ready, so that when the people come to pick up the delivery to take it to the customers, everything would be filled in already, so that the delivery man doesn't have to come with a waybill and then you only fill it in there on that day and then do everything. It just saves time. We even do it at my company with the couriers that we use. We also, when we're sending out stuff, we've got a stash of waybills that are blank there by us, and so we can fill it in ahead of time, package the whole thing, everything, do all of that, so that when the delivery man comes to pick it up, we can just give it to him immediately and he can go with it. It just makes it easier. So no, that is definitely true. So that's obviously how she had gotten hold of a blank waybill from this company to use as a fake delivery package. One of the witnesses in the trial, Arendine Fourie, she is a friend of Dina, Neil, and Natasha's, apparently. She said that on the day of Jordan's murder, she had phoned Dina and they had talked about, baby Jordan being, murdered and that she was passed away or whatever. And then Arendine had also asked Dina for Neil's newest number, which Dina gave her. So she'll give some random friend his number, but not his, the mother of his daughter, so that they can talk about the murder. No. Anyway, so this Arendine then phoned Neil, but he apparently was crying so hard on the phone that his dad took the phone and spoke to Arendine and said, what the hell is going on? Is this some kind of sick hoax? And she was like, unfortunately not. Like, that would be a horrific joke to make if it had been a joke. But anyway, obviously it wasn't. Arendine also said that the following day, she had gone to visit Dina at home, and all Dina could talk about the whole time was how upset she was because Neil had sent her home and said that after the police questioning that they had that morning, he had wanted to go and see Natasha alone, and this had upset Dina terribly. So obviously there was more than enough evidence to prove that all 5 of these people had been involved in the murder of Jordan, and they had Torbeka and Dylan who could be witnesses to, say that these were the 4 men that were there. They could trace the call back to Dina. It was all their fingerprints on that waybill. It was her handwriting on that waybill, all of these things. So there was no way they were getting out of it, and they all were found guilty of their crime. So at their sentencing hearing, Judge Bashir Bagley sentenced them each. So Zanatemba Baba and the 16-year-old, who was then 19 years old, Bongi Nkosi Sigeno, they both got 15 years in prison. But Gwanatemba was actually released on parole in 2017, which is 13 years after he had been sentenced. And Bongi Nkosi got out in 2018, which is 14 years that he had spent in prison. And then the other 3, so the 2 basically masterminds of this whole thing, Dina and Sipho, they received life in prison, as well as the man who actually committed the murder of stabbing Jordan in the throat, Mongezi. He also received a life sentence. Dina did try and appeal her life sentence, I think in 2013, but she was denied, obviously. She was sent to the Worcester Women's Prison, but then was later transferred to the Breeda Valley Correctional Services. In 2007, Jordan's dad, Neil Wilson, Dina's ex-boyfriend at that time, he spoke to Carte Blanche, and he actually did an interview where he confirmed to them that he hadn't spoken to Dina at all since she was officially arrested in 2005. Neil and Natasha also have no contact with each other, which I understand. Obviously she was hurt, and he didn't want anything to do with his baby anyway, apparently. So I also wouldn't want anything to do with him if I was Natasha. She also obviously refuses to talk about Dina in any interviews and things like that, which I get. I'd rather also just not focus on the horrific person that murdered my baby. So that's understandable. During the trial of all 5 of the suspects, Natasha was actually dating another man named Andrew Moolman, and she was quite heavily pregnant with his child. So they were engaged and they were planning to get married on the 9th of February 2008. That could have been my 17th birthday. But anyway, apparently they broke up a month before their wedding. They just separated for some reason. But Natasha gave birth to their baby girl Kira Norton. That was literally just before Dina's conviction. And apparently, Natasha and Andrew have quite a good co parenting relationship for their daughter Kira. She is 15 years old now, but when she was little, she used to say that Geordie was her star in the sky. So they did tell her about her big sister Geordie that's no longer around. And she did go and visit the church where her sister's ashes were kept. Now, at this moment, Kira and her mom Natasha actually have a cute little family together with Natasha's current partner JJ Harris and his daughter. So the four of them have quite a cute family, which I kind of just went and checked out on Facebook. So I'm really happy for Natasha that she actually gets to have hopefully a happy ending after all of this horrific tragedy that she went through. After the murder and this whole incident that happened, the entire Norton family did obviously go for grief counseling. Especially Dylan, he was suffering from severe PTSD for a few years after this incident. Very understandably, he was the one who found Jordan on his bed, and obviously he had been tied up and he was in the house when she was being murdered and all of that. So that must be such a horrific thing to have to go through, especially he was only 19 years old. That, like, at such a young age to have to go through such a traumatic event, I can't even imagine. Anyway, but apparently he is doing quite well for himself. He is a qualified chef and a sound engineer, so that's pretty awesome. And the family were actually living obviously at the same house after the murders. There was a stage when Natasha and her daughter Kira were actually living in the same room that Jordan was murdered in. The Natasha and Dylan's dad Vernon did say they tried to do some renovations on the house and make some changes and things, just because of the bad memories that were linked to the house now, obviously. I'm not sure if the parents still live there. I'm assuming Natasha probably lives with her new boyfriend or partner or whatever. So I don't know if the parents still live in the same house, but I'm guessing they probably do because they hadn't moved out for quite a while after this incident happened. Just an odd coincidence I want to put in here. While doing research on this case, I saw that on the 18th of August 2010, the Paulsmoor prison in Cape Town, they actually hosted this event called like Empowering Women Dialogue kind of thing. And our suspect that I was talking about earlier, Najwa Dirk, who was the female killer in my previous video, she was at this event. And Dina Rodrigues, our suspect from today's case, she was also at this event. There's even a photo of them together. That's just such an odd coincidence. But anyway, apparently at this event, Dina told everyone that she, felt really bad and she took responsibility for her actions and for all the hurt she caused, which is like, yay, well done, Dina. That's not going to bring baby Jordan back or heal everyone whose lives you completely turned upside down with your stupid ass selfish actions. But anyway, I digress. There was a time when Natasha and Dylan's dad Vernon actually met with our former president Jacob Zuma. That was while he was still in office. And this meeting had been set up by Solidarity or Solidariteit. It was to talk about the horrible problem that violence towards women and children is in, especially in South Africa. Like, we all know this is a massive problem. It's an ongoing problem. And I guess that meeting didn't really help much, from our government side, because we still sit with that problem today. If you look at what's going on at the moment, Tegofatso Pule's murderer, Ntutuko Shoba, he is currently on trial for her murder. And I actually did a GBV video a while ago about, the gender-based violence in South Africa, and I did mention Tegofatso Pule in that video, briefly explaining what happened. So I'll link it up here. If you want to, you can go and check that video out after we are done here. And a more recent case is obviously that nursing assistant from Tembisa Hospital, Lebo Monene. She was at work when her ex-partner, who is a police officer, came to her work, got her to come outside, and he shot her and himself in the parking lot. She unfortunately passed away. He was in a critical condition in the ICU, but he is now apparently more stable and under police guard in Tembisa Hospital, where she used to work. So this just shows you it's, the whole gender-based violence and violence against women and children in our country hasn't gotten much better. Anyway, sorry I got a little bit off topic there. Going back to today's case. So Natasha's aunt Renee Otmar actually wrote a book about this whole case. It is called In Cold Blood, The Murderer of Baby Jordan. So if you want to read more in-depth details, like, you know, the family's emotions and what they went through and all of that, that would probably be a good book to get. So in a lot of the reports that I actually read about this case, it said that this is one of the first cases in the world where hitmen were hired to murder a baby. Like, that doesn't happen very often, you know. If people want to murder their child, they just murder the child because they're little babies. It sounds horrible, but they're obviously much easier to murder than a grown adult who you would hire someone to, you know, take them out if you needed it done. So anyway, that's why I just think this is one of the craziest, most horrific cases. Like, where do you hear about someone paying people to go and have a 6-month-old murdered? Like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, I don't understand those people's minds, but it's probably a good thing because I wouldn't want to be inside the head of someone like Dina Rodrigues or, you know, Mongezi Bobotiane. I wouldn't want to know what it's like to live inside their brains because it must be very dark inside there. Dina's going to actually have her first parole opportunity in 2032, but I'm very confident that she's never going to get out of prison. I'm pretty sure she's going to be there for the rest of her life. And obviously Jordan's family, her mom Natasha and her uncle Dylan and her grandparents, they'll always be there at these, you know, all of their parole hearings to ensure that the three that are still in prison remain in prison for the rest of their lives, as per their original sentencing from the judge. And yeah, that was the pretty hectic case of baby Jordan's murder by hitmen. Please remember to like my video and leave a comment if you want to leave a comment about this case or suggestions for other cases. You can always leave comments below. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And until next time, bye!